Okay, so today I want to dive into a subject that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is to find the fastest way to success in any area. It sounds enticing. I'm going to give you guys some real gems here, how to skyrocket your development in every single area of your life. And the key to doing this is modeling. So we're going to model, we're going to mimic, we're going to learn from other people and how they're doing it. Now, just saying that, you guys might think that you already know what I'm going to say, but you have no idea. There are some very specific methods to my madness in modeling and learning from others that you're not going to hear anywhere else. We're going to apply modeling to my antenna theory of emotions and get instant and automatic success by doing this. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the 3 steps to modeling, and we'll get into that in a little bit, and really how we apply them. The 3rd step is applying that modeling, and that's going to be really what the antenna theory is based on, and applying that to people that you want to be like. So go ahead and join my email list if you haven't, so you guys can get updated on my latest podcast episodes. I have some really good episodes coming out I'm excited about, and that is at sponetrained.com, and you can just click subscribe to my email list, put your email address in, and you will get an email twice a week with my episodes as they come out. All right, so the first step to really modeling and getting that success you want is to have a clear outcome. Now, when I was in college, I took a very general major. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I ended up, my first job, many of you probably don't know this, I was a supervisor at Oscar Mayer. And my dad's dad, my grandfather, he was the plant manager in the Madison facility. And I was a supervisor in Davenport. So he had passed away since then, but I was kind of in the family line of work. My dad had worked in management in food companies through his career. And because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I ended up modeling those people around me. I became like what I saw, right? And because I wasn't consciously steering that decision, I ended up in a career that wasn't meant for me and it wasn't fulfilling. And so many of us do this in life, right? We don't consciously make a clear decision. We don't set an intention for an outcome. So we end up kind of at the mercy of our surroundings, of our situation, and the people we spend time with. We end up modeling the people around us on accident because we haven't consciously decided. So step 1 is decide what you want. And this is an ongoing and flexible process. You're always going to be saying, oh, I thought I wanted this. Turns out I don't want this. I want this instead. And that's okay. That's part of the process. And one of the ways to get clear on what you want is to just journal. I divide my life into several different areas. My relationships, my travel and adventure, my health, my finances, my career, business, whatever the case might be. Speaking I have as one of my topics. So I decide in each one of those areas the result I want and who I want to be. So if you don't have that clear intention, you're not going to be able to steer the ship. That intention is like the rudder that is leading the ship. Okay, so step 1, clear intention. Otherwise, you're going to wind up as a supervisor at Oscar Mayer. Step 2 is to find people that are living the way that you want to live, that are doing what you want to do. Most of us ask advice for people around us. If you were a kid and you said, I want to be a professional athlete, and your teacher said, well, you have to be realistic. That's not realistic. Why are you taking advice from a teacher who was never a professional athlete? You would have to go find the professional athlete and learn from them. So in each one of those areas of our life that we talked about before, where we have a clear outcome, a clear intention, we're going to create a board of advisors. Napoleon Hill talks about this in his book, Think and Grow Rich. And I have, my buddy Mark Yegi, who was on one of my podcasts, he has the pictures on the wall of exactly who he wants to model, who he wants to be like in each area of his life. And so I've modeled Mark, and I've done the same thing in my house, just because each one of those pictures has energy, and it reminds me, if I want to get the result in this area, that I need to model this person. So find out who has the results that you want, and then I'm going to tell you how to break down to model and to match that result. Because listen, the pioneers were the ones with arrows in their backs. So you don't need to be a pioneer here. You can find the people that have the result you want, just do what they do, live in the energy that they live in. Remember, we're going to tune our antenna into them, into the same station that they're on, and you're going to get the same result. That's how this works. If you take the same actions with the same energy, the same intention, you're going to get the same result as someone, and it's not going to be identical. But in order to cut years off your life, you're going to find those people that you want to be like. And this has been a huge part of my development. In real estate, I have mentors and coaches that I model the systems and I set up the systems that they have. In hypnosis, I've learned from some of the best in the world, and a lot of them have been on my podcast. And now when I'm doing hypnosis on somebody, I find their language patterns, I'm just saying them naturally because I've modeled them to a level that's not just conscious knowing what they do, but it's unconscious. So we want to find out the things that they do automatically, the things that they do on an unconscious level in their day-to-day lives. And we want to get that so ingrained in us that it becomes unconscious as well. And I'm going to talk about the best ways to do that. So we've got a clear intention. We found the people that we want to be like in every area of our life. Maybe you've created your board of advisors. And now we're going to start to model them. And so what exactly is modeling? Well, it's copying, it's mimicking. Those are some general ways to think about it. But if we break it down into the antenna theory, then the results that they have in their life are based on a few variables, right? They have their antenna tuned into a certain station. Donald Trump, like him or not, if you took all that guy's money away, pretty soon he'd still be playing with billions. He'd get back to a billionaire soon because his antenna, his mindset thinks in the way of making billions. It's like we have the same thought patterns, only he just adds zeros, right? So spending time around someone like that, you will start to tune in to the vibrations of that person. And no matter what's going on the outside, his antenna will always come back to that set point. So we're going to learn how to model those people. Now, one of the most important things that we do as humans is we recognize patterns, right? That's essential for our survival. So we're going to go pick people that we want to be like, and we're going to watch them, we're going to learn from them, we're going to listen to them, and we're going to start to recognize the patterns in their life, the patterns of how they tune their antenna, of how they resonate, and all the variables that go along with that. And then we're going to start to mimic that. Now, here's one caveat. You always want to be yourself, right? I interviewed Rock Thomas a while ago, who's one of the people that I model for speaking. He's an amazing speaker, brilliant personal development mind. And he said, when I started, I would just find myself doing the exact same thing that Tony did. I would, say yes, and I'd have the same pauses and the same stories. And he said, and the more I did it, the more I started to find my own voice. So I modeled him to get to a certain level of success and efficiency. And then I started to throw in my own stuff, my own stories, and become myself. So I think the goal in this is to become the highest version of ourselves. So we can copy people in every area, start to just put their systems in place till we get the level of success we need, and then we can innovate. Then we can be ourselves. We can put our own spin, our own message on it. But that comes with having the solid foundation that you're going to get from your board of advisors, from modeling the people that you want. So here's a few things. And again, let me reiterate this, that we want to model them. If we think about the 4 phases of learning, which I talk about in my NLP course, there's unconscious incompetence. We don't even know what we don't know. Then there's conscious incompetence. We know that we need to learn stuff, but we still don't have it. Then there's unconscious competence. There's conscious competence, where we know it, we're starting to implement it, we still have to think about it. And then there's unconscious competence, where we don't have to think about it, we're just good at it. It's just natural. And so everyone that you're going to model, they have unconscious competence, the highest level, where they don't think about it. They're just competent at what they're doing, and it's natural and automatic. And that comes from repetition. So you're going to have to repeat these things, the systems that they have, the procedures that they do, the beliefs that they have, the language patterns they use. You're going to have to repeat them until they become unconsciously competent, until they're natural for you. And at that point, you're going to have the level of success that these your mentors and your board of advisors has. So here's a few ways to begin to model them. Well, first of all, if body language is half of our success in life, right? If half of our communication is body language and half of our emotional state is body language, and our whole life is based on our emotions, the first thing we want to model is body language, or at least to be aware of it. If you're looking at a speaker, how do they stand? How do they move? What's their posture like? What are their facial expressions like? How are they breathing? One of the people that I model is Wim Hof, and he has certain breathing techniques, right? And so by breathing the way that he does, I'm tuning my antenna into similar thought patterns, into similar experiences, and I begin to resonate at a higher level. So if you can copy, mimic, model your mentors in the areas of body language, remember, I teach 4 parts. So there's our breath, there's our facial expressions, our posture, and our movement. So if we move the same way, if we stand the same way, if we smile the same way as people we want to be like, we will start tapping into the same thought patterns as them. I've watched Tony Robbins on stage, and I find myself like, he's got this a little bit of a swagger. He kind of steps heavy-footed and he sways a little bit, and I've modeled that, and I've walked around at events like that, just seeing what it feels like, because that comes from a certain internal state. Remember, all of our internal states show up on the outside. So he puts his hands in his pockets with his thumbs out. That's a sign of power. So it's like showing off your goods. It's framing your goods, saying, I'm confident. And so I've done that, and I've modeled his body language and his breathing and the way he smiles and the way he looks around a room. And I started to feel that confidence just by modeling those 4 factors of body language. Now, in a moment, we're going to talk about getting into rapport with those people. But let me go over this first. So we got body language covered. The people that you want to be like, you're going to start to mimic them in the 4 areas. The next thing we're going to do is language patterns. Language patterns are so important. And I haven't gotten super deep into the techniques of language patterns. If you guys want my language patterns course for free, it's phonetrain.com/language. You're going to get 1 pattern every day. So I got all of these patterns because I took them, I modeled them from other people that were having success, right? When we ask ourselves a question, it creates a certain internal state and we get a certain answer. Our brain always looks for an answer to a question. So if we ask useful questions, we're going to get useful and empowering answers. We're going to see the world from a different perspective. So why not steal the useful questions and ask ourselves of people that have success? What is someone that's successful asking themselves? What is someone that's fulfilled asking themselves? What is someone that's in a great relationship asking themselves? Right? Are they saying, why doesn't this person love me? Are they saying, how can I serve and make this person feel amazing? Those are 2 different questions that will create a totally different life. So the people that you want to be like in each area, find out their questions. And I have my podcast, so I get to ask these people, what are the questions you come up with? What do you ask yourself? How do you talk to yourself? What language patterns do you use? And those language patterns come out every day. I try to spend a lot of time around great hypnotists. Mike Mandel, Freddie Jacquin, Zach Pinsence are some of the guests that I've had on the show that I've become friends with. And I'm doing hypnotic work, and guess what? Their language patterns come out. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's not even mine. And I've become unconsciously competent with a lot of those language patterns because I've spent so much time around those guys and I've implemented. Now, guess what? My work as a hypnotist has improved greatly just by modeling their language patterns, right? So Rock Thomas, my episode with him, we talk a lot about language patterns and affirmations and incantations. And I've borrowed a lot of the things that he says. He asks a question, what's great about this? By asking what's great about this, you tune yourself in to finding out what's great about this. So I wouldn't have got that if I wasn't hanging out with Rock, who's someone that I want to be like, who's someone that I want to model. So model the language patterns of those people that you want to be like. And even not just language, but the intonations, right? The volume. People that are confident speak loudly. People that are shy, they might be timid. Their voice is low and slow, right? And if you want to be like someone that's timid, model that. If you want to be like someone that's confident and outgoing, model that as well. And even pausing, watch speakers as they pause. Like that's so powerful. Just model it. Pausing creates a little bit of tension. It creates people give their attention, right? They get sucked into it. They're curious. It creates an effect. So if you want to be like a speaker and that speaker pauses, that's something that you can model as well. So the language patterns, intonation, all of that stuff. The next thing is the visions, the pictures that we create in our head. So successful people are creating certain images in their head. And remember, we place things in our proprioceptive nervous system. We place them all around us. So when I think about my mom, I might put her up into my left. When I think about my business, I might put it up and to the right. And it's got certain size and certain dimensions. And so by changing that, we can change the way we feel about it. I always tell the story about one of my former clients who he wanted to get into doing bigger deals, but when he thought about doing bigger deals, they appeared big and overwhelming to him. So we took those deals and we just made them small in his mind. So we changed the way that he felt about them. They didn't feel overwhelming anymore by changing the modalities of the images. So for modeling, we just want to find out what pictures and what images come to the minds of the people we want to model, of the people we want to be like. What are they seeing every day? What are the images that come up? And specifically, I guess we can go segue into the next one is what are we focusing on? So what we focus on, we create self-talk around and we create images around. So if you shift your focus to the same thing that the people that you're modeling are focused on, guess what? You're going to have the same results, or you're going to start tracking towards the same results because you're going to tune your antenna into the same thought patterns, into the same vibrations, and your behavior and capabilities will be consistent with that. So are the people you want to be like, are they focused on what they have or what they don't have, where they've been or where they're going, what's wrong or what's right, how people are different than them or how people that are the same as them. And I can't give you exactly which one's right or wrong because everybody does it differently, but the people that you want to be like, the specific result that you want, you're going to have to find somebody and model them. That's if you're around them, you can ask them that question. If you're not around them, just read their books, listen to how they speak, and you're going to figure out pretty quickly what are they focused on. Are they focused on how they can serve or how they can be selfish? And if you model that focus, again, you're going to tune your antenna into the same results. You're going to start to access the same capabilities as them. Diet and lifestyle. That's a huge one that affects our antenna and our thought patterns. And I've started to model people who are on fat burning diets. So our body has two sources of fuel, carbs and sugar, glycogen, or fat. And so when we get into a fat burning mode, our body burns fat off of our body. It's a steady energy. It's a much different source. And I've noticed for myself when I'm eating sugary foods or even carbohydrates, too much fruit, my system gets sugar. It starts to burn glycogen as a main source of energy, and my body starts to turn acidic. When my body's acidic, my joints begin to bother me a little more. My range of motion slows down. My oxygen uptake slows down. And my thought patterns aren't as productive. So this is something that I've noticed, and you can model me on this. But then I started to learn, I had Udo Erasmus on, who's on my show, who's the king of healthy fats. And so I take his Udo's oil as one of my supplements because it turns my body into fat burning mode. Gary Brecka I had on who's the human biologist, and we talked about all the things related to our blood work and burning fats. And so I've started to find people that I can model and have a similar lifestyle as. Now, this one's tricky because everyone's telling you to do something different. My old chiropractor, who he moved out of town, one of my friends, he's I think 50 some years old. He was a college wrestler at Purdue as well. He's super shredded, super fit. And he would tell me that he had a friend that was a doctor who was a heart surgeon. And this guy was on all kinds of medications for blood pressure in his heart, and he was overweight. And he was like, I can't believe this guy's giving advice for people on how to have a healthy heart. Remember, don't take advice from people who don't have the results that you want. So, you wouldn't go get diet advice from a fat doctor, would you? You wouldn't get money advice from someone that's broke. Don't model somebody who doesn't have the results that you want. And finally, the people that you spend your time with, you become like, right? So if you're, and we tend to get into rapport with people we're around. Now, Tony Robbins tells, one of his most powerful principles that he teaches is that proximity is power. Being around those successful people is incredibly powerful. And here's a few reasons why. Because when you're around somebody, you naturally get into rapport. And when you're getting into rapport with them, you start to share the same frequency as them. You start to tap into the same thought patterns. And you will naturally start to model their behavior. It's, humans, people like themselves. And we connect. Connection is so important for us humans that you can't be around a group of people that are low vibe, that are drinking, that are, not living the lifestyle you want. You can't be around them. And it's difficult to, and not try to fit in. We always are trying to fit in. So we may give up some of our values, some of our vision, just to try to fit in with that group of people, which is why it's so important to hang out with people that are doing what you want to do, because you'll get into rapport. And by being in rapport, you're tapping into the same frequency, the same thought patterns, and the same capabilities. So my buddy, Chris Crawford, who I've probably talked about a lot on this on my show, him and I will call each other, text each other with new ideas. And it'll be like, Chris, did I tell you that idea? I thought that was my idea. Didn't we just talk about that? And like the craziest, most random off the wall stuff, we're always sharing with each other. And I'm like, dude, I wrote that in my journal this morning. What the heck? Because we're on the same frequency. We're in such strong rapport that we share thought patterns. And so by spending time with people you want to be like, by tuning your body in, your thought patterns, your language patterns, by spending time with them, you get into rapport and your capabilities will skyrocket. So find who you want to be like. Maybe there's someone that's like way off, like a politician or president or a celebrity that you want to be like, and you can't access them yet. Then find someone locally that has some level of success that you can spend time with and model and learn from as well. Right? So there's different layers. So, if I want to be like a huge successful businessman that I don't have access to, that's okay. I can start locally and find someone who's successful. And then I can work my way up. And always be growing your sphere of influence, always moving in the direction that you want to go. Never take advice and try not to even spend time with people that aren't doing what you want to do, because you will become like them. So I think that covers it. So that's how we model, right? Remember the 3 steps. We have an intention and a clear outcome. Number 2, we find people that we want to be like. And again, this can take time. You can add people and subtract people, and this may change throughout your life as you discover exactly what you want. And then we model them with our language patterns, with the images we create, what we focus on, how we use our body language, our diet and lifestyle. And we're going to just remember, keep an eye out for recognizing patterns across what makes people successful. And then I think the final thing is this may or may not be tied to the antenna, but the scheduling, what they do with their time and what their actions are, right? Because if you're in the same thought patterns as somebody, but you're not taking the actions, are you gonna get the same result? Yes or no? If you feel really confident and that person you want to be like is going to the gym at 6 a.m. and you're not, guess who's going to get the result? Even if you feel like them and you're tapped into the same thought patterns as them, you're not going to get the same result. So if you can, the people that you want to be like, find out what their schedule is, match their schedule as closely as possible, because that's going to give you similar results. So go out there, find people you want to be like, begin to model them, and your life will start to match the results that they have. But remember, always keep your own identity. You were made unlike anyone else in this entire universe. And so we don't want you to be a cheap knockoff of somebody else. I want you to have this, that part of you that sparkles and shines. But first, get the foundation of success by modeling other people. All right, so that's another episode in the books of the Spoon Trained Personal Development Podcast. I hope that was useful. If you guys enjoyed this episode, I would love a review or to share it with your friends. And yeah, I have some great guests coming up. I'm starting to reach out to some really people that have been really influential in my life that I haven't connected with yet. So I'll be bringing new people on every week, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.